And Doneane joining us now. Thanks for being here. How are you doing today?
Good. It's hot outside.
I was about to say it's very hot, but what we're talking about today is that it is necessary to be out in the sun.
That's right.
You just have to, well, of course it's hot, you know, sometimes you don't want to be out there, but you need to be.
Right. Sunshine is very important to our health, and a lot of people don't realize that sunshine is necessary for the production of a very important essential vitamin, and that's vitamin D. There's only 2 vitamins that our body actually produces on its own, and vitamin D is one of them, and vitamin K is the other. But vitamin D relies heavily on the sun because there's a chemical process that happens with a healthy cholesterol that's already in our bodies. When the sunlight hits our skin, there's this chemical process that happens that turns that cholesterol into vitamin D.
Okay, so this, you know, they say, of course, you have to protect yourself from the sun with sunscreen and things like that, but you don't need to be avoiding the sun altogether. It's just part of the natural process.
Right, and you only need about 10 minutes of sun exposure per day to get enough exposure for your body to produce the right amount of vitamin D. And of course, you know, ladies, a lot of the lotions and makeup and things that we wear already contain some sunscreen, but guys don't think about sunscreen a lot. And if you're predisposed to skin cancer, if you've ever had it or anyone in your family has had it, of course you want to wear a sunscreen and not get too much exposure. And for this, really, if you're riding back and forth in the neighborhood or going to and from work, you can roll your window down and just put your arm out the windowsill and you will get enough sun exposure just from that little bit to make your body create enough vitamin D for you.
And it's interesting talking about this too, because I notice sometimes, you know, being in the office all day or being in the station, I just want to take a step outside and I start to feel better just being out in the sun a little bit, just taking a break.
Well, and the sunshine also helps our brains to produce those feel-good chemicals, and we've talked about this before. You know, in the wintertime when it's kind of gray outside, you know, or if you live in a place where you don't get a lot of sun exposure, you can actually get seasonal depression, and it's from lack of sunshine. So the sun is so important to our health.
Yeah.
And the really scary thing right now is years ago, like back in the early 1900s and then again during World War II, doctors saw a condition that's due to vitamin D deficiency called rickets. And in children, that's the bowing and the softening of the long bones in the body. It causes bowed legs and bowed arms. And that's when the food industry started fortifying our foods, our dairy products, and our cereals with vitamin D. They also saw it in men in the military in World War II in the submarines where for months and months they had no sun exposure. Well, now doctors are starting to see that again, and in the pediatric community they're very concerned about it, and it's because our kids are not going outside and playing. You know, during the summertime, yes, it's awfully hot, but urge your kids to go outside just for, you know, 10 minutes a day. Just go outside, ride a bike, walk through the neighborhood, read your book outside, play your video games outside just for a little while just to get that healthy sun exposure.
And interesting how you were saying that it's just the 2 vitamins that our body produces naturally, the D and the K. It's really just all part of that. Right.
There's very few food sources of vitamin D. Some of the oily fishes like salmon, cod, even catfish, tuna, mackerel, sardines, that has vitamin D in it.
Okay.
And interestingly, mushrooms. Mushrooms are grown in the dark, but they contain a lot of vitamin D. That doesn't make sense to me, but they have vitamin D. So there's just very few food sources of it. Not everybody likes to eat salmon and catfish and mushrooms and and then you can always take a vitamin D supplement. There's all sorts of supplements on the market. You want to make sure though vitamins are measured in what's called international units, IU. And on vitamin D you don't want to go over 10,000 international units per day, because if you overdose on vitamins there's other health ramifications that can happen, so you got to be careful with that too.
And if you're doing that, of course, daily taking that supplement, it's better to be out in the sun though, right? But you can still do both, I guess?
Sure, it's better to get it naturally if you can, if you're accustomed to being in the sun. And you might want to check with your doctor too, because if you have a vitamin D deficiency, that's something that you would want your doctor to be sure and stay on top of, and then let you know, okay, you need to eat this, take the supplement, and get sun exposure, or maybe let's limit it to one or the other.
Great. And how can we look at different studies and different information, of course, like what we're talking about today? We can find you on Facebook.
On Facebook under Fitness Nutrition Consulting, and you can link to my webpage, and there's all sorts of information. The videos of all of these things that we do on air will be posted, and links to articles of interest and books and just all sorts of things.
What about, is there something, if you can't be out in the sun a lot, is there something
Yeah, some people are, hypersensitive to the sun, or if you're taking certain medications that, they say don't get sun exposure, or some people actually are allergic to the sun. So you're going to have to do the dietary supplementation.
Okay.
If you don't like eating fish and mushrooms, then you need to take a vitamin D supplement. So in that instance, I would be sure and check with your doctor first.
Thank you, Doneane. We appreciate all that information. Again,
Absolutely.
you can contact Doneane online and through her Facebook, but also this segment will be on fox4beaumont.com. We'll be right back.